righty, and let's let the folks join us.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. It's the Canadian tuxedo, you know.
And there you go.
I learned that term when I was in Canada recently. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good to see you once again. Welcome to the show. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a blast today. Still letting a few people in, but we will get started here in one moment. David Stanwood, welcome to the show. Good to see you here.
Hey, David.
Wearing an appropriately wool sweater there. Master of wool with his sweater.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks, David. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, hi, Oliver. Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, in person. I've never seen you before.
That's right. I didn't recognize you because I've never met you.
Who's that?
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, we still got people rolling in here, so we'll let them continue, and then
just for your
get started.
David and I were put in touch together through Wayne Ferguson.
Oh, nice.
Well as Ethan, you got hooked up. I got hooked up with all of you guys through Wayne, and David seems to be the kind of guy that I like, who's really curious, and he's coming up here in March on the 25th, and we'll be giving a seminar in the shop on his latest stuff. So I'm really excited about that. That's so cool for me. It's such an honor to have somebody like him coming to eat our bagels.
That's a nice way to put it. It's great. We were saying before we went live here, I'm wearing a Canadian tuxedo as well, which is a common outfit for me, I guess. That's what you guys call the flannel shirts, right?
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, it looks like most everyone, the bulk of us are here, and I will put out, we're going out on the social medias as well right now. So let me just let people know if they'd like to join us. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, you can join us on Zoom. Yep. And I'll put that registration link so people can check that out. And we still got people rolling in, and I'll give an intro and then we'll get started. Let me, more and more. Let's see here. I'm going to do a spotlight there, and I'll do add a spotlight for our friend Oliver. And then, we'll get the show going here. So what's going on here today? What are we doing? Well, this is called Piano Tech Radio Hour. And for this particular program, we gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And I will introduce today's guest next. This is Oliver Esmond White. He's been on the program before, but he's come back again. And he's been a piano technician for over 50 years and was the last Canadian to study at the Baldwin Factory. He was also the first North American to attend the Yamaha Piano Technical Academy in 1986. As a rebuilder and concert tech, Oliver has been involved in thousands of recordings, audio and televised. From universities to the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, from Yamaha Canada to music schools and festivals, Oliver has worked hard to share his expertise. But working alone, he felt a glass ceiling and the need to do something for his struggling industry. To make a difference, Oliver started researching the history of the piano industry and found some valuable information. I'll pause there for one moment, let a couple people in here. Let's see here, where are you folks? Admit, okay. And let's pick up where I left off here. So Oliver started researching the history of the piano industry and found some valuable information, which we'll explore today. His shop has been described, which we'll also explore today, as the most modern in Canada, perhaps North America, by Yamaha Canada. His interests are everything to do with the piano industry that innovates. If it's being done correctly already, hey, that's great. But now let's explore perfection. His concert rental business is believed to be the largest in Canada. Okay, welcome, Oliver. It's great to have you here again. Just to give people a rundown, the plan for today is to we'll get into a little bit of a workshop. We'll do like a foundational intro, just talk to you for a minute, and then we're going to take a look at your fascinating and well organized and well planned and engineered workshop. And then if people have questions about the workshop and that kind of thing, you can put them in the chat, or we can address things after you run the tour down. And then the bulk of the conversation will likely be just kind of about what I mentioned in the intro there, where the piano industry is coming from, where it's been, but also our thoughts about where it's going and, how we can really make a better piano world for our future together. So yeah, Oliver, welcome back. Tell us a little bit about your workshop here before we take a look at it. I know last time we met with you, you talked about, I think you had I don't know if you got some grants around some interesting things, a grant to build the workshop or get engineers to design it or everything, or how did you get such a great workshop? What's the story there? What's the foundation?
We're in a building which is subsidized for creative companies. And in Montreal, we have our zone for putting on shows, which is downtown. So the Jazz Festival and all summer long, there's festivals one after another. But then there's the creative zone of Quebec. Or Montreal, and they shoved us in this area where there's all kinds of companies. In this building, I think there's 400 people that work in creation. So my next door neighbors are the ballet company, the Grand Ballet Canadien. They have all their costumes done here. In another corner, there's woodworking, and there's recording studios, there's printing shops, there's ceramic people, you name it, all these creative people, art galleries. It's just amazing. And that is subsidized so that we don't have to pay as many taxes. And the rent per square foot is lower than it would normally be in a similar kind of building. So that's not money in my pocket, but it's money that doesn't go out of my pocket. Mm-hmm. And the idea is if you get a lot of cultural people together, good things happen. And we have in Canada, or at least in Quebec, we say that our cultural capital, the name of the city is called Las Vegas. That is, we have the Cirque du Soleil there, we have Celine Dion there, just so much going on from culture. What Quebec does well is culture, and we export it to you guys south of the border because we don't have any money. But that's a whole other story, So
tell me, what's the name of the building again that you're in?
It's just 5445 de Gaspé. It's just the address of the building. There's 4,000 people work in the building, and only a few of the floors are dedicated to artists. And then the rest of it is industrial, and we're in a specific zone. So it's quite a lovely encouragement, if you will, it's certainly not given away. I can tell you the first of the month comes fast, but it's there, and it's an amazing place to be. Yeah.
Great. And the design of it, I know when where did that come from, and how long did it take to put the planning into place there?
We moved about 6 months ago, and the move started being planned about 3 years ago. And in the interim, and that was because of COVID, everything got pushed back. And we were lucky it was. In fact, it's played to our advantage. The move was paid for because they wanted to take over an entire floor where I was, the building owners. And as I had a lease, they had to pay for my move, and that gave me the opportunity to really look at things. So we had, yes, architects, but before the architects got a hold of it, we had 2 theses done, one by a university in another city of industrial engineers. And they looked at our workshop, and I was put in touch with them by the federal government of all people, who said, you know, you should look at this, take this course. And the first time I was put in touch with the professor, an industrial engineer professor, I was thinking, why am I doing this? This is a waste of time. I know what I want. And it turned out that the ideas that he had were instrumental in linking other ideas together and giving me a clarity of thought as to how I should instruct the architects to design. And I had instincts about how to set up a workshop, and I'd read various things from, keep the tools you need all the time right at hand, and the things you only need once a year as far away as they can be. All of those concepts that are Yamaha, blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows about those, or at least if you read about it a little bit, you'll get to those. But this was really about the mobility of a workshop stations, tools. And the second part of it was through the Minister of Manpower, the Quebec one. And it had to do with education and how to pass on knowledge to apprentices, how to do this and how to do that. So you combine all of this, and it gives you a different view of a guy in a basement with his workshop or in his garage. It's how to get people together, how to transfer information, how to try and grow things, because that ultimately, as I mentioned, I saw about 20 years ago that our industry had a trajectory that I did not like. It was losing, and that has continued to today. And now if you look around this chat room, our average age is probably over 60. In our industry it is. We did that study, and that another study that we had to do. It's not healthy. With no clear idea of how to do it, I set out about 20 years ago with the preposterous idea of reinventing our industry for the future, because I looked at the past and I saw where we were going, and we've continued, and we're really on a downward trajectory, which bothers me as a human being, as a piano technician. It bothers me tremendously. So some of the things that were bothering me were the things that we've just discussed now. Of course, research and development and all kinds of other things bothered me tremendously. And I have a dictum: stop complaining, do better. And if I can't do better, then I have to stop complaining. I have to shut my mouth. But in this case, I've actually I'm on the quest, and I can show you where I'm at, and I'm nowhere near finished. If anybody thinks that I know what I'm doing, the answer is I know better what I'm doing than I used to, but there's just too much that I still don't know for me to claim to be somebody to follow.
All right. Well, we all gotta follow each other and at what we're best at. Maybe that's the best way to put it, right? We all can be leaders and followers where it's appropriate.
Yeah.
What do you think you want to dive into showing us around the shop?
Well, I think right now I'm in the action workshop, but I'm going to go to the start. I guess there's 10 rooms, and I'll go to the front door and start there and bring you through the workshop as David. When you come up here, you're going to meet the front door, or actually I'll go into the garage and pick you up down there at the front door. But we'll figure it out. So I'm going to.
And I'll remove my spotlight so we can just focus on what you're doing there.
Okay, and let's see, I'll go in here and then I'll turn it around. We might have some technical problems, but I hope not. So I am now going in, I'm going to reverse this. I'm out in the hallway and this is what our corridor looks like. As I mentioned, this is one person who does design, the Grand Ballet, the ballet company is there. They're on this side as well. It's just, and here is our area and the doors. Well, you can kind of get an idea that we're probably in a piano spot. We come through and we can see all the way through. There's right to another building through two different workshop, through two different rooms. This area here is where we put on little shows and we prepare pianos for concerts. Since we started talking, this piano has shown up. It wasn't here when I guess it's getting ready to be put on its feet. Here is where we store our pianos. This piano just came back from rental, literally, as we have been in here. It's on a clavier roller. And we have two of them there, and one person moves tunes and does everything. So we have all our rental pianos in here and storage space. This is my wife's office, and she sometimes lets me sit in here and pretend to be the manager. But we all know about that, don't we, guys? And we like to have plants and try and keep it nice. And here's my engineer's room. So we have lots of little doodads that we're just kind of having fun doing. On this side, we have 3D printers. We have 3 of them. And for what it's worth, we're about to get a new 3D printer, a completely different kind. Then let's see, we have a CNC machine, again, plants in here, and storage and some of the things we're working on. David, I'm going to show you this when you come up, but this is something we've been working on for trimming hammers. Here's another one, prototypes, and we can put a hammer in and they can just clip in and slide along a table saw, and we can control the weight of those hammers and trim them down to well within a gram, probably a quarter of a gram. So that's kind of fun. And then the nerve center of the business, the coffee machine. So I'm sure you all would like to know that, yes, if you come up and visit, you got a coffee waiting for you. And the kitchen it's a well-appointed kitchen for that. We have our office space in here, and at night this area turns into a recording studio. You can see through this into the corridor and right into the recording area. And the door, let's see, anyway, I'll a little bit more. We have a noise room in here for some of the tools, so big compressor in here, but we keep storage in here and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice, even the nasty areas. Now we come through. Here's Robert. Robert, would you care to set up the piano on its legs? Yeah. So why don't we take 1 minute, 2 minutes, and you'll see how the clavier roller, one person alone can move the piano. So it's on a dolly. He just lifted it. Pull out the dolly. Put in a fulcrum. You can see how hard he's working. We're about a third of the way through the job, I would guess, by now. You'll see it's really pretty fast. And nobody works too hard, particularly the boss. Most important. Are you interested in this?
Oh yeah, for sure. Keep rolling there. That's great.
So what he's doing right now, he's just hooking it up. There's a couple of bolts that go in. And so you can see that virtually no effort that a 70-year-old like me, I do this. It's anybody can do this. He's going to make a little bit of noise with his machine. So I'll turn off, well, he uses a drill. It makes a little noise.
Yeah, the noise is fine.
Done. And now, how many times have you seen broken legs or liars? The piano is now ready to have the third leg put on. That's it. So that's
now he's got to take a big long break after that.
Yeah, well, you know, he needs a scotch and I don't know. No, that's pretty much what it is. The keyboard and cover are protected here, and this entire skid is hooked to the to this. So all the corners, there's no corners that are exposed. So there's exactly no damage done to the piano. This piano has probably been rented, oh, I would guess 500 or 600 times, or 500 or 600 moves. And it's still, as you can see, pretty much perfect. This is a rubber bumper, but we don't damage them in the moves, as you can tell, because the equipment is not only amazing and fast, but it protects. Oh, the skid is now off, and the shoe or the key cover or whatever you want to call it is now off, and that's it. Oh, the pedals go on, but you all know how pedals go on. And unless it's a Steinway, it's not a big deal. So in the time to anyway, we're kind of done here. And now this piano is going out tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. It'll get tuned. We have a heated winterized truck, and I put a one-man job. It's the backbone of our business is renting grand pianos for concerts. So what was that? 5 minutes less to get it going, and I'll close the door. So that's what happens in this room, and we'll tune it, and it has a kind of an acoustic that's a little bit reminiscent of a concert room, so we can voice and do things like that. Here I'm in a new room, and this is what we call our storeroom for parts. So everything is kind of categorized, and on this side we have more parts. In this case, they're the metal parts, and they sit here. Everything is magnetized. So first of all, we can see everything, and it's readily available. And we have ordinary areas where full of traps that we all need. We have an engine hoist or a piano plate lifter, but we're getting rid of that. It's going to the ceiling here. We just haven't installed it. This is the installation of a QRS system that's going on in here. And around the corner, we do our keyboard work. We do our structural and dusty stuff in this room and noisy stuff. In this area.
One quick, let me interrupt you real quick, Oliver. I think you might have put your thumb on the microphone input or something. And we can hear you. There you go. That's a little bit better.
Okay. Here we have the analysis going on of the up weight, down weight, etc. of a piano. That's the Fandrick Rhodes touch weight bench. So that's our GPS before we rebuild the actions. We do that. And this is our chemical area. We have a fan system to blow the nasty stuff out. And these doors, which you can see here, they close, and any of the noise, etc., is then gone. So, and again, the room is pretty nice. Now, everything is on wheels. All of our saws, everything is on wheels, which is a principle of workbenches, or I'm sorry, workshops. Here we have the action for the QRS system, and again, it's on wheels. We can move it around, bring it around with no trouble. Our workbenches are all on wheels. All our tables are on wheels. I think we have 6 of these, and they have drawers as well as legs and windows. Everywhere around here is windows. And this is the action workshop. So we're now in here, and we'll spend a little more time. Again, I kind of like magnets. So we have a lot of magnet bars, and any tool that you need is kind of hanging within 1 second's grab. Something that some of you might like is a glue dispenser. They're really fun. You put glue in the little thing, and you push a button and it comes out, and you can control that, a Forstner thing. Up there, that is one of my research projects. And it works. It's 85% done. In 15 minutes, I can get up weight, down weight, the correction of them, the friction, the dip, the leveling, all kinds of information out of an action. And again, all of our tool cases are on wheels, so we can bring them wherever we need them. And once again, we try and keep it everywhere. This is all carpeting, by the way. Everywhere in the workshop is carpeted. There, and the final room, I guess, is the stringing room, which is 100% soundproofed. So we can voice in here as well, and string in here, and people literally 10 feet away don't hear anything. And we also do our CNCing in here, which is dusty. So we have a little vacuum and do that right here. So that's again another workbench that's mobile. The string stuff is mobile. Everything is mobile, and that's a concept that was put to us by the engineers that I was telling you about, and it makes sense. So I'm now done with the walk around, and hopefully I didn't bore you all to tears.
There's good tears. It was good tears. It was,
that was
cathartic.
Glenn
It was cathartic.
away.
Mostly people were probably just lamenting the state of their own workshops if there was tears involved. But I had this question I made a note of here. What kind of things do you CNC? What do you use that machine for?
We use it. We've developed something we call lifesavers, which are for pulley keys. And they're wood inserts that the holes are either perfectly centered or off-centered, so you can turn them around. And if the we use a Forstner bit that goes into the whole, and we have these little lifesavers, so we make those, and they react exactly like a wood shoe as opposed to those fiber boards or anything else. We also have been doing our butts, the Fandrick type butts that we have been converting in regular pianos. We have put those into mold, into jigs, and then we CNC those. But we're getting away from that. But it's gotten us from point A to point B. And now we're getting ready to injection mold those same parts. Cheaper, faster, more precise, as far as I can tell. I'm really excited about that. We do all kinds of other CNC work. We want to start using it for making panels for the front of pianos. For the we'll probably be using it for the lyres, the music desks, to let sound through like our ancestors did. It doesn't make any sense to me to have a wall in front between you and the sound of a piano in a grand, and the same in an upright. Our ancestors had a lot of windows to allow the sound to come out of the piano and come straight to the pianist, rather than having the sound really come out the back of the piano, go into the wall, and then do its thing from there. So.
Yeah, the una corda piano that Clavins makes, he doesn't even close it off at all. Just leaves it completely open.
Yeah.
Yeah, really wonderful stuff. So we have a question here. You know, maybe we'll make a few minutes for questions before we get on to kind of like the timeline of pianos discussion we wanted to have. But we have a question in the chat. Not necessary to answer if you don't want to, but wow, says Peter, can you share the overall cost of setting all these workspaces up? I don't know if he can. More than $10, probably.
Yeah, we went to the Dollarama, but no, it's been ongoing. First of all, I'm much different now than I was 50 years ago. I'm not in the business to make money. 30 years ago, I set up on this quest to try and find a way forward for our industry. And along the way, I've recognized some really, and found some really bright people. There's the research and development that's part of the past. And there's, and if you look at where we were, and I think this is part of our topic, there used to be in Canada alone 220 manufacturers. In fact, I can see one of the buildings, not just a workshop, a building right from where I am. I think it's 5 floors, and it was one of those factories. There's another one 2 blocks that way, another. They were everywhere in North America. There were, I think, 2,000 something builders or manufacturers, real factories in North America. And one of them, Chickering, in 1903, I read, was the second largest factory in North America. I mean, huge industry. So we were, I have heard, and I can't prove it, that we were the largest industry at that time in the Industrial Revolution period, and one of the motors for the Industrial Revolution. It employed thousands of our ancestors, thousands, not hundreds, not tens. So the people that got their training, yes, there were schools for the elite, but they got their training generally in the factories. And you deliver your piano by horse and buggy, and we're right beside train tracks here. So the parts came from wherever, Baltimore or Pittsburgh or wherever, the plates, and the parts from somewhere else, and you'd mix and match like IKEA and put together your piano according to your own design. and put your name on it and stencil it on there. And as we know, all of those pianos had something in common, but were also a little bit different. So a lot of the factories weren't into research and development, but some were. And that's where we went, and that's where we got our training, was essentially from the factories. And factories closed down. And in the 1970s and 80s, that was pretty much it. Baldwin, which was more than pianos, was the largest US bankruptcy when that went under, but it was, we had a thriving industry up until the 1970s, and our industry has literally been decimated, and we know that, but we don't think about it very much. So it really bothers me, because I'm also seeing the knowledge disappearing, and us old cantankerous guys, sorry to the ladies if there are any, and the younger generation, but us old codgers are a dying breed. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to let it die like the harpsichord and all of those things. Just doesn't sit right with me. So what are the solutions? Stop carping and find the solutions. And as an individual, I was making much more money, but I recognized that I couldn't get past being a piano technician, and that was pretty much it. I think there's some people like David Stanwood who found a different way, but again, is it a way of industrially moving forward, perhaps? But I looked around and I ran into Daryl, and I knew what I was looking for: research and development, taking something, how to grow it. He had a few employees, and when I met Daryl, I said, oh, this looks like a model that I could learn from. So I introduced myself to him and went out there several times. So that's how I got going at it. And I've taken it from there, had study after study done, because I believe that consultation and getting together are fundamental to re-kickstarting our industry. And I am not a person that thinks the best days of the piano are behind us. I actually see, because of my studies to the past, I can see a way forward where we could get back the sales that we have lost and the industry that we have lost, where it would become, in fact, probably stronger despite all the other influences. I can absolutely see a path forward to growing it back the 90% that we've already lost.
So how would you say, folks on this call can participate in that? Is it like a step-by-step? Is it kind of a general ethos of, collaboration or yeah?
Well, most of us are lone wolves. We work on our own. Sometimes we work for somebody. We work for a store or something, but who can afford the kind of equipment that I have? And I'm only getting started. I want to buy scanners. I want to buy new 3D printers, some rudimentary injection molding equipment. There's a ton of stuff that we need and that we can't as individuals afford. So if we're going to do anything, it becomes obvious that the only way to move forward is as we get together and work as a team. Whether that's a factory-owned team or a piano technician-owned workshop. This place I will be giving to my employees when I pass it on, because I wish for piano technicians who are highly skilled to make the money, not for management, to come over and squeeze the lemon until there's nothing left and make profits. The piano technicians deserve good salaries. It's really a lot of knowledge that we must accumulate. The problem to me brings another level, which is how do we get rid of or share our knowledge? There's so much. The individual tasks are generally quite simple, most of them, but the accumulation of knowledge is daunting. So, and passing it on is daunting, and also not being on the same page as our other brethren. One does it one way, one does it this way. How do you have a workshop or work with people when everybody does things different ways? And what I learned with Yamaha and the Yamaha Tech Tour and all of that, which was absolutely amazing. That's where I met Wayne and all kinds of outstanding piano technicians. If you go to those factories, they all know the same things. We all learn the same things. We all can follow one after another. So there's some kind of standardization of teaching, of methodology, etc. And I've started working on that, and I still have a few more years in this shop to complete that, and literally hundreds of thousands to invest in it. Again, another study, how to do that. If I look at the traditional schools and how to pass on information, you have a school in a city. They turn out maybe 20, maybe 30 people a year. And pretty soon that city is saturated. 10 years later, you don't need 500 piano technicians or however many there are. And we last for a long time. And sometimes the technicians get around the country, but you get too many people in one area and not enough spread around. So you can't have a workshop or a place in every city, a school. So that model doesn't hold for me. The Japanese one, I really like it. You don't go to school for a year, you go to school and then you go back to school and go back to school and go back to school and you get grades. And in the meanwhile, you go back to your store or your city and you work until you're ready to take the next level of training. And they have grades. I think I heard, but don't quote me, 11 or 12 or 13 grades or something. The French and the Europeans, I've been over there several times in the last few years to study with them. The French, everything is closer there. So we have a problem with just distance. But if you get into their piano technology school, ETAM, which is in Le Mans, you must have a job lined up before you get there. And then the people that hire you pay you to go to school, and you're in school for 2 weeks, you're working for 2 weeks, you're in school for 2 weeks, you're working for 2 weeks. And again, they have several diplomas. I believe it's 5 or 6, including a teaching diploma. And they're hooked up with the University of Le Mans, which is the Center for Acoustic Studies for all of Europe. So they have like this big thing that they've put together, and they're moving it. It's huge. And we don't have a concept like that in North America. But when I was over there, I told them about the studies that had been done for us. And I told them what the concept that I wanted to try and promote here in North America. And they fell off their chairs saying, that's exactly where we want to go. We're getting there, but we're not yet there. And what it is you break down everything into modules, tiny little modules of work, each with tools and procedures and the videos to give the major amount of knowledge. So like a class, a master class, like David would talk about bushings, or you get the information that is properly structured and approved. And then you need the individual, for example, I don't know who are good technicians in the group, but you would have an apprentice. You don't have to teach them because they got that information, but you have to check them to make sure they know what a dip block does, and to know what, there's the personal accompaniment. And practically none of us would know how to go about properly transferring our knowledge to an individual student. It's daunting. So that should be collectively put together. And then you would have the older guys like us, some of us anyways, who can accompany students, but it doesn't take all our time. So we can have an apprentice, and yet it isn't sucking all the money out of our business because our best, most paying employee is taken up doing this other stuff and pulling his hair out because it isn't done right, etc. So the transfer of knowledge is done, and then the accompaniment is done in two different parts. And that is that way in every city, you can, or every town, you can have, wherever there's somebody, you can have an apprentice, and you can right size, you can take on the number of apprentices in that locality that you need for that business, for that city. And if you don't know how to do something, I don't know how to do soundboards. Well, there would be somebody who would know about that, that if you wanted to be accredited, then you would go and take that accreditation. You'd learn different modules. If you can't do it yourself, at least you know what you don't know. You know that somebody can do it, and then you can go and get that knowledge somewhere else. So that's the big view of what I would like to see happen, and that is a project. However, stop complaining, do better. So I have started doing it myself, and I'm hoping to get help in doing that. So you asked what I would hope for. Is I would hope to be able to pass this off to other people, because I don't need to do this. I just need it to be done.
Yeah, I like that vision. I definitely can tell I've been thinking along the same lines, not the same exact things, or some things developing organically. Right now with our team in New York, we have some systems kind of like what you're talking about, where somebody learns something, but somebody who has experience can come in and just talk with them for a little bit and make sure they know things are getting checked out, right? And I think that's also one of the things that we can do nowadays is just acknowledge the availability of the technologies that we have. It's so easy to just do things the way that they've been done and not realize the type of ways that you can change things to make it more efficient with the tools that you have. I always remember the example when I was in music school, studying jazz. You would study the solos of famous jazz musicians, right? And I remember feeling guilty from taking a digital player and playing it at half speed. Because it's easier to write down then, right? It's like I was cheating or something, right? And I mean, lo and behold, you look back at like John Coltrane would do the same thing, just put his record player on a lower speed, to try to learn the solos, and I think the thing is just to implement the resources that we have. People are just like we're doing right now, like people are doing online education or types of education where you can learn a little bit on your own and then only check in when you need to. Actually, we had my friend Will Armstrong from Brooklyn come in, and he's doing some online teaching stuff. And he's finding it. He's trying to launch a new project around teaching music because he's finding it useful not just to have like, oh, we meet for a half hour and that's our piano lesson, right? Oh, well, I could be texting with the student all the time. I mean, not that all your hours are spent with that, but same thing, like they're doing this with medicine now. There's an app called Forward, where, you pay a monthly fee, you've got a team of different doctors, and you've got a little thing you could say, oh, I'm having a tummy ache today. And they go, oh, you're having a tummy ache? What's it feeling like? You just send your text messages and you get your input immediately, And so I'm seeing, like you're saying, we can do things like that with instruction and modules. And I do like the idea of sort of them, it's not a word, modulification of things, right? Also partly because different people are going to develop expertise in different things. One issue we run into in the States with the PTG, it's like you're either a registered piano technician or you're not, right? And in order to pass the RPT exam, you got to know the basics. You got to tune a piano. You got to do some basic repairs and things like that. But then you've got, renowned rebuilders who've never passed those exams. They just never did. I don't know. They never had to or whatever. And so they're technically not an accredited, whatever accreditation means, and people have different fields, some people are not great tuners, but they're great at other aspects of doing things, right? And so it's also nice to have a way to acknowledge that, right? And allow people to niche out into different areas.
Yeah, the way the engineers explained it to me, it was a little bit biological, their explanation. We're like veterinarians, and we learn about different animals. Well, animals have a lot in common: blood system, eyes, ears, skin, etc. But you wouldn't want to confuse a bird and a dog, I don't think. But they have a lot in common, but they have their differences. So once you start looking at the similar, and in pianos, it would be an upright, a grand, maybe a pianoforte, maybe even a harpsichord, because they're kind of in the same, so you could look at all of those things as different animals. Then you break them down into the things they have in common, but the things that they have in common, what are the differences between those things? And in my opinion, what we have to do is break things down into organically, if you will, and say, I'm accredited for upright, action, rebuilding, and etc. Or grand piano, or changing hammers. Maybe it's only the modules. Now I know how to do Erards, or now I know how to do ancient pianos, Viennese pianos. They're all different animals. So to say that somebody is a master piano rebuilder or something like that, it's like, to me, it's like, that's the opposite of helping us learn what we don't know, and also understanding what we do know. And also, if we had these categories, we'd know somebody is accredited for Viennese actions. And if we wanted to study with them, now we know where to go, because in the, we have a collective basin of knowledge that hopefully we would be prepared to share. So all of this is part of a much bigger way of looking at the question of how and what to call ourselves. And I object to us all having the same category. David Stanwood is not the same as somebody else who's an RPT who has no experience, and yet he's categorized the same way. Now that's just not fair.
Yeah, and it's uninformative. We have a question here from Glenn. He said, we also need a fresh resurgent of new piano students and performers that would generate new business. What are your thoughts about that? He speaks only not as a piano technician, but also as a piano teacher.
Yes. First of all, how to keep employees. I expect to have 30 employees here in the workshop when I'm finished, but probably only working 20 full-time jobs. I'm talking to the people nowadays in my world that want to have travels. They're working musicians, so they want time off to travel and do records. They have family, their soccer practices, somebody, life happens, and unlike me and my era, the young people that we have want good working conditions, and they want a life outside of the sweatshop. So this is the opposite of a sweatshop, and we're creating conditions that would encourage people to work here, can go on holidays, they can pass off their tunings, we share resources, they have, and you're not losing, rather you're gaining. So that's one part, how to retain piano technicians and keep them interested. The other thing is how to gain pianists and rebuild the industry. And I absolutely have a lot to say about that. But I don't think it's the time that I want to get into it. There's two parts. One is the playing of music and where it's being played. So where did the piano come from and how did it get being so strong? Well, the answer is it started really not in big concert halls. They didn't exist. It started in salons and of course in people's living rooms, the rich and the famous mostly, because they were the only ones that could afford it. So it became a social thing, and there was something that we call soirees. So there was the musical evening. And a soiree is based on three elements. One is the cultural thing. It could have been poetry because people were big into remembering all of Shakespeare, and they could do that back then. So you had your cultural stuff going on. It could have been dance, it could have been poetry, and most of the time it was Chopin and Mozart and people like that in the quote unquote living rooms, the salons. So there were the three elements. One was the music or the culture. The other was the venue. It was really beautiful surroundings. And the third was it was a social event. These were not events where you went to a concert and you came home. So what have we done? We went from that model. It was making money. The middle class came in. We bought more pianos. We built this up, and all of a sudden we needed bigger and bigger halls, which we did, and that made more money. Now we had stars, and we filled the halls, and we got involved with making money out of this, and we managed it to make money. And we did really a good job, but we cut off the root system. And the root system is where you have it intimately, where the piano is really an intimate art form. It's not a rock concert kind of thing. So if you cut off your root system 50 years, 75 years later, you're going to see the effects of what we have here. Now, is this irreversible? And the answer is no. There's 50 million or something piano players in China who have no history of piano playing historically. So why have they done that? And that brings us to why we can get it going again. Has something to do with the piano, but it has more to do with brain development. All the research done, and a ton of it is literally in eyesight of where I am, the universities that are around me. They show that the cheapest and best way of developing a brain is through the playing of, in general, piano. Left hand, right hand, eyes, ears, memory, rhythm, everything is developed when you are playing the piano. Every country, anecdotally, that has adopted the piano historically, they've seen everything go straight up. Like look at Japan, Korea, now China, and in North America, way back. This is all anecdotal. Don't go to the bank on this, but it's kind of funny that that's what happened. In my opinion, there is a way of bringing the teaching of piano using artificial intelligence, not deep learning, but quick learning. I've gone down this rabbit hole quite deeply. You can have a keyboard, people with an iPad, 4 years old, 5 years old, playing games that are musical on a keyboard. The AI can analyze their movement, find out if they're dyslexic, whether they have rhythm problems, whether they have, you can analyze where the brain is at and have ways of correcting it by giving supplemental things. Now, am I talking about the piano? You bet. That's how we should be treating our young people, is to help them get to school so that they can learn properly. And there's nothing that does that better, and we know it, than playing the piano. So what are we doing? We're talking about piano as being a hobby. This is the wrong attitude for piano people. We should be talking about what it does for our society and why government should get involved, not to pay for it, but to promote it, so that that people know that if they do this for their kids, they get the discipline, they get all of this development, and their kids have a better chance at a good life. Better engineers, better doctors, better lawyers, better brain development, which gives people a chance. So I got into it. Sorry about that, guys. But these are the things that are absolutely fundamental. And if we as piano technicians, and I would say the PTG, this should be the fundamental task of the PTG, is teaching and promoting the piano, not as the piano, but as what it does for our society. So those are the things that are really, once again, I've stopped complaining. I'm trying to do it, and I'm not waiting for somebody else. When the pandemic broke out the week before or the month before, I had 20 people sitting around the table that are really high powered. This is a wonderful industry that we can get back. And so I'm not pessimistic, I'm optimistic, but the PTG and the piano technician should start understanding that the way to talk about the piano is not as a hobby and as a cultural thing. Yes, it does that. Absolutely, it does that. It's a wonderful thing for that. But what it really does for society is create better brains.
Yeah. Interesting. That's an interesting perspective on things. You know, I have a family, so it's hard for me to get out and about, you know, at nighttime and stuff like that, right? Just with the kid. But the family's away right now, and so I got a chance to go out and see some live music last night, and so it's very fresh in my mind, kind of what you're talking about, and it was actually very refreshing. You know, because you don't actually see that as much nowadays, kind of a small, you know, bar club atmosphere with a small group of musicians and a broad diversity of audience members. You know, like I've seen a jazz club, right, or something where everybody's got to be like a huge jazz fan and it's all packed in there, but it's kind of like a small environment. This is great. It was just kind of like just the broad average, you know, people going out to do something, but the feeling there, you know, it's not like watching Netflix, you know, put it that way, right? That kind of a soiree, you know, group of getting people together, and you're listening to music and you're talking and you're sharing ideas and things like this. It's very powerful, and you're right. We're kind of losing that foundation of human relationships and also culture. You know, actual individuals in the society, not just the superstars, having a cultural exposure is very powerful.
For what it's worth, my wife and I put on about 300 concerts in our living room. We stopped when we sold our house about 12 years ago. But the very first person to play officially was a pianist by the name of Marc-André Hamelin. Wow. I don't know who that is, but and it was followed by Oliver Jones, who's very famous in Canada, as a stamp and an Order of Canada. We had classical singers. We had amazing things, but people didn't come alone. They came not even as couples. They came somebody's birthday, 3 couples, 4 couples. They brought their own bottle of wine. We had cheese and coffee and cake and stuff like that. And it was, the musical activity was what you could talk about at the end of it, but it was creating the human links, the memories, shared memories. You're building society. And that's what the salon is all about. All of these things, we've completely destroyed them in today's society. In fact, we actually, a few years ago, went to the trouble of creating a law, a permit, for a zoning permit that allows private concerts, paying private concerts in a home. And until we tried to find a place in the world that permits were available for people to have a concert in their living room. And it did not exist. Maybe it does now, but as far as I know, we created the first zoning permit for this kind of activity in, well, I don't know where. It's certainly everywhere where this was looked at. There was nowhere we found something we could copy. So they're all integral parts of what we used to have and what we destroyed. And the model is to look at what our ancestors did and inspire ourselves and go back to it, because it actually works. It's still pertinent today. Going and having a concert in somebody's living room, the person might hate jazz music, but they loved their evening.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Lots of that, because you're just having fun.
Unfortunately, we are over time here. We're like just getting warmed up here. But it's been really great to hang with you again. And clearly we'll have to have you back again. And we're talking about a masterclass as well. I know you're actually working on some of these educational approaches and designs, you know, before we finalize the date and time of that. But but this is
We're
all in the works. Yeah.
really excited. We think we have our rebuilding of an upright action, including new parts, into under 20 hours. And it makes it 300% better and affordable. So I'm trying to walk the walk.
It's amazing.
But yeah, we'll see if we succeed. And hopefully we'll get some support from people who want to try this technology, and we can do what we can. But whoa, how much did it cost to do this? The answer is more than you want to know about. Scary, but it somehow it's working out. It is. So if we can help other people, we will.
That's excellent. All right. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wrap it up here. We even have questions left unanswered, but maybe I'll pass them along to Oliver and see if he could send a message or something. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. Next week, I'm really excited. I think next week, we're gonna have somebody coming on and talking about Stretto pianos. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's these pianos specifically designed with a smaller keyboard. The keys are less wide, and people with small hands can then reach the various large chords and things like this. So her name is Hannah, and she's really been on the forefront of the development of these instruments and popularizing them and making them available all over the place. So kind of more interesting piano innovations that's coming next week. So stay tuned and make sure you register for that one as well. Yeah, we've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. So thanks to today's guest here, Oliver, for joining us. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. And for those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you could make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. You'll get the recording of today's session in a member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. And I finally created a short link for registration there. And so I'll put that in there. Let's see. It's bit.ly/join PTRH. And I'll put that in the chat so you can click on it. Let's see. Yeah, so join us. Oh, and don't forget to check out the Piano Tech Radio Hour podcast. That's just literally pianotechradio.com. You go over there. You can download our archival content as audio episodes and kind of listen to some of these masterful discussions in your car while you're doing dishes, working out, whatever. And so you can enjoy the podcast now, and make sure to rate us. We're going to send out some emails soon with a little video showing you how to put a rating on iTunes so we can get the exposure out for that. So that's pianotechradio.com. Make sure to check that out. Okay, guys. That'll be it for today. We'll catch you later.